speaker is here. Perfect. All right, perfect. Hello, Alex. Nice to see you. So thank you very much for being here for this webinar. As usual, this webinar series is organized by the CiFood Center for Innovative Foods at Aarhus University. And what we usually do is we have a speaker, a very prominent speaker in their field, who is going to give you some updates and state-of-the-art in their field. And today we have Alexandru Luca. And then if everything goes okay with our technology, we actually post this on YouTube. Because what we find is that many times there are more views afterwards than actually doing the presentation, because people like to see these webinars when they can and when they are interested in the topic. So without further ado, again, thank you for joining this webinar series from Aarhus University. And I will pass the airtime to Alexandru Luca, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Food Science at Aarhus University. And his expertise is post-harvest physiology and short chain supply chains and digitalization digitalization focused on improving the shelf life. I'm sure Alex will tell you a lot more. This is just a very short introduction to get everyone familiar with the topic. Alex, take it away.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Perfect. Thank you.
Good. Yes, welcome to this webinar where I'll present today how we can determine freshness of fruits and vegetables and how to do it in a digital format. The presentation is divided into 3 parts. First, we'll have an overview of what are the digital solutions already available in the supply chain, then talk specifically about digital twins, and finally I'll present some of the results from the DigiFresh project. To begin with, I'd like to start with a global question or global problem, and that is of food waste. It's especially a big problem in the area of fruits and vegetables. As you can see here, almost 50% of fruits and vegetables produced in Europe or North America, they are lost as food waste. Some of them are lost at farms due to climate, due to contract agreements. There are different reasons why this is happening. But as you can see, for instance, for Europe, around 25% of fruits and vegetables, they are lost after harvest. And that's where we are working. That's where we try to improve these figures and we try to reduce them. And there are different ways how this could be done. And one of the solutions could be starting to use shelf life for fruits and vegetables and get more insight into the freshness of these perishable products. And we believe this can reduce these numbers significantly. Now, I would like to show an overview of the digital supply chain. And in the next slide, I will show some examples of what is already available. Like in supply chain, everything starts with the farmer. It's getting orders from, let's say, a warehouse that communicates with the transportation company, and the product is transported to the warehouse, where one can now, for instance, read the data from the sensors to get the data from transportation company and do some computation and understand how the conditions in transport affected the quality of produce. Well, this is like an ideal world, of course, but that's not often the case. And because you need a person that will be able to read all the graphs and who will be able to do all the modeling. And then this produce is then sent to shops where it's delivered to customers. And the emphasis of this slide is to show that we do lack two aspects or two parameters, like shelf life for fruits and vegetables, or to be more specific, for unprocessed fruits and vegetables, is still not available. So the warehouse management, they do not know anything about how long this produce can be stored and sold at the shop. And also there is this consumer that doesn't know what they are buying, like how fresh produce they are buying. And this whole presentation or webinar will be about these two aspects, like what is the shelf life and how fresh the produce is. Before that, let's just have a quick overview of what is already available there. When it comes to harvesting and handling of the produce, there are different solutions available, digital solutions, like when to harvest, how to incorporate fertilizers. There are different digital equipment designed for sorting of the produce. We are all familiar with the labeling, and this also needs some digital it's also a digital solution that is used by the supply chain. You can see different informations on the label. There are solutions for business to order the produce, to book and keep track of the produce, integrate the documentation and data into their existing databases. And some of the commercial products include, for instance, SCM, MyCiva, MyMSC, and others. There are also solutions where you can, for instance, calculate the carbon footprint of the supply chain. It's this EVA calculator. Also a lot of solutions for transportation and cold storage, all kinds of trailers and shipping containers equipped with different sensors that can control and regulate, let's say, temperature, humidity, gas composition inside of truck or container. There are also lots of solutions to control or to monitor these parameters, as well as GPS trackers. Users can set up thresholds in these digital tools, import the data, and there are also other nice digital solutions. For example, for traceability, there is the door edger, and that's a sensor that will tell whether the door of a truck or container was opened or not during transportation, because you don't want someone to mess with your produce. And some of the commercial products are Captain Peter, that's for shipping containers, Batnet Wind, that's for CA storage of produce, or general low temperature refrigerated storage of produce. And Accent, it's a company that we are working together with in a project. They're providing all kinds of different sensors, like for temperature, relative humidity monitoring, like door edgers, tracking, and things like this. And I have provided here some links where you can learn more, read more information about each of this commercial product. So that's what is available. And now, what are we lacking in the supply chain? And that is, I need to introduce you to FIFO and FEFO terms. So FIFO stands for first in and first out, while FEFO is first expires, first out. Imagine we have different farms from where produce same produce, let's say strawberries, are arriving to a warehouse. So one batch of strawberries arrives on 13th of December, then another batch arrives 1 day later, and the last batch arrives on 15th of December. In ideal world, we would like to know their best before date. It's not known right now, but imagine that we do know their best before date. So in case of FIFO, what would be done is the batch that arrived first will be sent to the market first. And then say a batch arriving second will be sent to the market in the second place, and the last batch will be sent the last. Whereas in FIFO, the things will be done differently. A batch with the shortest shelf life or with the closest best before day would be sent first, and the batch with the longest shelf life or with the latest best before day should be sent latest. And that's something that is done for other types of products, but unfortunately it's not done for fruits and vegetables. And the reason for this is, again, lack of knowledge of the shelf life or on freshness of fruits and vegetables. Well, a solution, we tried to work on a solution, and it led us to using digital twins. And what are digital twins? They're also known as digital shadow or digital mirror, virtual avatar, or virtual phantom, or synchronized virtual prototypes. So if you search these keywords, you can find more information about them. So it's not only the digital twins that is used, but yeah, these other terms are also used. And the definition, according to De Freyer and others, from a review, a very recent review in Trends in Food and Science and Technology, that is actually open access, so you can freely download and read it. The definition is that it's a digital representation of a real product that contains information about properties and geometrical components, simulates accurately all relevant processes and reactions throughout the life cycle of the product, and it's using an input real data from sensors. And again, in ideal world, that would be continuous flow of data, and that data should be like a real time. In other words, what is a digital twin? Just imagine we have a real strawberry that is transported, and it's exposed to different temperature, relative humidity, gas composition, and there is a sensor that is measuring all of this. A digital twin will be a virtual strawberry somewhere in the cloud where by getting all these inputs from the transportation of the strawberry, one can guess or observe what is happening to the virtual strawberry, and then estimate what would happen to the real one once it arrives and once they, for instance, open container and check it. The same paper, they do provide a very nice overview of all types of digital twins that are used, and you can see this graph is quite complex. You can see digital twins based on artificial intelligence, and data-driven digital twins, statistical digital twin, mechanistic, and they have their advantages and disadvantages. And one of, let's say, limitations, for instance, to use artificial intelligence or computational fluid dynamics or CFD modeling, for instance, could be that there is not enough computing power to calculate, to perform all the computations. And here you can see that to work with the digital twins, one needs 3 components. First, data needs to be inputted. So there must be a sensor or some kind of data that is fed in the digital twin. This data needs to be stored either in the cloud, using blockchain, and then it needs to be analyzed, again, by different ways. And the reason why I mentioned this computational performance is because it's not cheap to use CFD for every batch, for example. And when we were planning our project, from the very first step, we realized that we need something really simple that doesn't need a lot of computational power and that can easily be done by many companies. So I would like to talk a little bit more about the generic shelf life model. It's a pretty simple model that does not require a lot of computational power. It's generic, which means it can be applied on different fruits and vegetables. It's just a matter of changing some coefficients. It can cover multiple quality aspects, and by meaning multiple qualities, one can develop a model, for instance, for spoilage of strawberries. And here you just see different batches stored at different temperatures, and you can develop a model, and you can see how the spoilage how the produce is spoiling. But that will be just a model for spoilage. And what about if the produce dries out or loses glossiness? So these generic shelf-life models, they're able to incorporate all these different quality aspects and create an output like the keeping quality that is now a parameters. It's a potential time that the product can be stored at a certain condition, and as you can see here, depending how it was handled in the supply chain, when it arrives to retail, let's say in this case, it does have around 1 day of keeping quality, meaning that in 1 day, this produce is expected to lose its quality, whereas in case of this chain B, the keeping quality is much longer, and you can see a big difference in time that this produce needs to lose quality. Well, I've said quality word now a lot of times, and quality is the most important here in generic shelf life models, and there are limits that needs to be set, and it's very easy to work with the limits here, as for instance, one is accepting only 5% spoilage for strawberries, but others can, let's say, accept 7 or 10% of spoilage. This can easily be changed in this model, and this model uses different inputs such as time, temperature, relative humidity, and gas composition. Now, I would like to talk how we used this model and show some results from the DigiFresh project. First, let me introduce you to the project. It's an almost 2-year CiFood co-funded project. It has 4 partners in it, 2 universities and 2 industrial partners. And the ambition of this project was to integrate existing commercial sensor technology and real-time monitoring of temperature and relative humidity with smart digital twins, and to translate the storage conditions in the supply chain into remaining shelf life. And it's the Extens who was providing this real-time monitoring solution and sensor technology in this project. We have selected 3 different products as model products. First, we selected to work with strawberries, as they're highly perishable. They are really good candidates to study microbial spoilage and loss of glossiness. And we also, if we check literature, there are a lot of papers with different shelf life modeling approaches. So a lot is known about strawberry, and it's a good model product. Another product was lettuce. It's also highly perishable. It's a good candidate to study wilting, and it's also losing quality sometimes due to spoilage, and sometimes, rarely, if it was really handled properly, it can lose its quality due to senescence. but we never came up to the point where we could observe senescence before lettuce wilted or was spoiled. So we also have worked on a third product, which is broccoli. Compared to lettuce and strawberry, this is an inflorescence. It's some unopened flower buds. It's also highly perishable. And I'm sure most of you have seen yellow broccoli heads in the supermarket on the shelves. So it's a very good candidate to study senescence. What we have done in this project was, for example, in case of strawberries, we were obtaining strawberries from local growers during different weeks. Then we were storing them at different temperature and relative humidities. And during storage, we were monitoring different quality attributes, such as glossiness, sepal quality, rot development, weight or water loss, firmness. And we tried to use only objective methods to monitor these quality parameters where it was available, and where not, we actually developed some methods for objective quality determination, because when you develop a model or when you work with digital twins, you want an objective data to be used. And if we use some subjective evaluation, like one person, even if it's expert, they can do mistakes and they can incorporate more variance in the data. And alternatively, we could use a sensory panel, but that would be too expensive for so many experiments. Thus, we were always looking for objective methods. And I'll just show you one example of a method that we developed specifically for broccoli. So there is this equipment that is doing multispectral imaging at different wavelengths. So the product is exposed to 19 different wavelengths, and then the reflectance is measured. And here on this image, you can see the broccoli head, but this is not a real photo. This is an image calculated from these 19 different, from the spectrum. So here each pixel contains information from 19 different wavelengths. And what we can do in the software is we can teach it to differentiate the broccoli head from the ground. So you can see it's highlighted here. We can teach the software to differentiate yellow buds from fresh green buds or purplish buds. And you can see here the outcomes of the computation by the software. And then we could use the area of pixels for each specific head to calculate the percentage of freshness. And I would like you to look at this specific broccoli head. And if you try to say yourself, like how many percentage this is still fresh, you would maybe say something like 10, 20%. But in reality, it's somewhere around 32%. And the reason is because we perceive colors differently, and like we expect this broccoli to be purple green. And once we see a lot of yellow colors, we focus on them, and subjectively we can underestimate the freshness of this broccoli. Thus, we have used this objective method to develop the models. And now it's time to show you what was our result. So this is a print screen from the software, from a real supply chain. There were some strawberries were harvested on 21st of February this year and transported from Spain to Denmark. After 2.5 days, they have arrived to Denmark, and then we moved them to our storage facilities at Aarhus University, kept them at 1 degrees for additional 2 days, and then moved them to another storage room that simulates the conditions in the supermarket. Like, we exposed strawberries to 18 degrees Celsius and around 50% relative humidity. You can see here on the y-axis product potential. This is an abstract term we have developed that describes the freshness of the product. So if the product potential is within 0 to 100%, the product is considered as fresh. And once it reaches 0%, the quality is lost. And we have used quite low acceptability limit figures, because we were developing this technology not for consumers, but for retailers. And then they're using they're much more strict in what is good quality or what is acceptable quality. What you can see here, this blue line, shows how the quality was changing over time as the produce was transported. And you can see, especially at this moment, when we expose them to high temperature, the slope increases and the quality is lost somewhere by day 5.5. And on the same graph, you can see the green dotted line that represents another digital twin that is predicted or calculated based on optimal conditions. So we could set up here that, okay, optimal conditions for strawberries should be 1 degree Celsius and 98% humidity. In this case, we would expect strawberry to last for more than 10 days and lose its quality after 10 days. Because, and as you can see here, there was a big loss in time for this specific batch of strawberries. Around 5 days was lost due to the way the strawberry was transported and sold. After receiving strawberries from Spain, we have monitored them continuously on a daily basis and checked their quality, and found out the quality of the strawberries was lost here where the star is placed, and the difference was just 7 hours between the actual time of quality loss and the quality loss predicted by the digital twin, which is quite a good result. And in general, in our validation test, we got an absolute error of around 10%, meaning that we over or under predicted by around 10% the time when the quality is lost, which is quite good number. Then there is additional feature, because we do have a digital twin and we can do many things with it. For instance, here, just before, let's say, sending it or exposing it to the conditions in the shop, one could actually have a look and try to predict when the quality will be lost. So one is, this is once the product will be stored at 18 degrees. And then if this same batch was stored at 1 degrees, again, they could gain around maybe 2.5 days until the quality of these strawberries would be lost. So it's not only looking what happened in the past, but it's also a tool that could be used to predict what can happen in the future. And what we believe added value or of the outcomes of this project are, first, is the implementation of FEFA in the supply chain. And we have already communicated with different actors in the supply chain, and they're showing interest in this. They can use this tool also for price fixing. And a good example is at least here in Denmark, we often experience that the price for fruits and vegetables is reduced only when the quality is lost. And then consumers might not buy this produce because you can already see that the quality is lost. And why would you buy something that you have to sort and throw? So they could reduce the price before the consumers can see the quality loss and give a chance consumers to consume fresh but less expensive produce. Another way the results can be used is to optimize the retail management. Example, send products with lower storage quality potential to supermarkets with high buying capacity or that are equipped with refrigerators. And also they can identify critical steps in the supply chain. For example, for the batches where product was lost due to quality, so like when shops are contacting warehouse and all are reporting that there is a specific lot that spoiled and they couldn't sell it and they lost a lot of it. Then one can go back in and check what happened during transportation and whether it's poor quality already from the farmer or whether the produce was transported under not optimal conditions or whether the temperature in the next transportation should be reduced. Well, that's all for today's presentation. We have a time limit, as I could not show you more, but next week we have a workshop. It's a 2-hour workshop where we will be presenting the results of the project, and you can definitely learn more about digital twins and about the results we have obtained in our project. And I know maybe we can copy this link in chat, or otherwise you can find it on our LinkedIn of our department. There is a post with the registration form. Thanks, and we can move to next.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was very excellent presentation, as well as very good to see a real example of digital twin. Because I think that one thing that I find that is very important is that we also explain to people that are not so familiar with how much digitalization could help with food waste to see it in practice. And I think this is what I really like about your Digital Fresh product, that it is possible to see in practice what it really means, also from the point of view of really saving on food waste. I don't know if I don't see any questions from the audience. I just have a quick question for you before we finish the webinar, which is related to the fact that I do believe that, first of all, in your field, in post-harvest physiology, is extremely important to be able to predict, because there are so many different changes that happens during environmental changes that can affect the quality of the product. How do you see this applied to other commodities? And which commodities do you think would be also benefiting from a similar model?
You mean in terms of fruits and vegetables, or
in general? Not fruit of okay, fruits and vegetables. You've shown an obvious example, right?
Yeah.
But if you had to go through other commodities, which other commodity that is perhaps less exploited than fruits and vegetables could really benefit from a similar model of supply chain?
I cannot think of many, because we do have best before or expiry days on majority of food products, and there are also regulations in terms of how these products should be stored and transported. Like, let's take in case, as an example, we can say milk products. They all have expiry date, and they must be transported under refrigerated conditions, and they are sold under refrigerated conditions. So there is not much that you can do there because the expiry date is already known and the supply chain is complying with the rules. Whereas here you can see strawberry sold like at ambient conditions, and sometimes they even think that it's better to put it outside in the summer when it's like we have here very high radiation and high temperature, strong wind that is drying this produce, and it loses glossiness and spoils. So I can't really think of many products, but maybe wine, if we're talking about some sensory characteristics, and again, if a batch of wine would be assigned with a sensor and the temperature would be monitored continuously, then you would know what to expect. But that's
very, very good. I think that it is very obvious that obviously it's always with products that are somewhat alive, right? Still alive during transportation. And so as they are alive, they will be affected by environmental conditions. And it's true, meats, dairies, they're possibly more regulated. And by being regulated, if things break down during the supply chain, that you're going to waste the product. But perhaps this could be a way also to release some of the strict regulations on some of these products, perhaps cheese and butter and things like that are not necessarily so regulated because of food safety. But anyway, thank you so much, Alex, and I want to thank the audience for being here and listening to the webinar, or anyone that will listen to the webinar online on YouTube in the next year or so. So again, thank you, Alex, and see you next time for the next CiFood webinar.
Thanks.
Goodbye.